But then the thing is as well, it's interesting going towards giving people grace, giving people time, and seeing if something is a habit. Naturally, in that, in some sort of sense, friendship is developed in that. And so friendship is the key and the foundation for giving feedback. And I'd never seen this before, and it's interesting that this is what we talked about because I didn't think of it before we just started recording. But shout out Danny Bryan, but he kind of led group on Tuesday. Yeah, we went through John 15, and in John 15 it says, starting in verse 12, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." Commandment equals loving one another. "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you to do." So, okay, commanding, there's two parts of that. Going back to the previous verse, you're following his commandments if you love people. But then also there are a lot of other commandments that the Lord gave, that if we follow those to the best of our ability, trusting in his grace rather than in our perfection, that we are his friends. That's really cool to be a friend of the Lord. But something that just kind of hit me that I never really thought of is that a lot of times we say, and I'm still working this out mentally, but we say, "Oh, Jesus was a friend to sinners." It's interesting there, though, in verse 14, it says, "You are my friends if you do what I command." And so kind of what I think was a possibility here, whenever we say Jesus being a friend to sinners, was a possibility was that they considered him a friend because of his love for them. But maybe he just didn't consider them a friend because, they didn't do what he commanded them to do. They didn't love. But he was still open and accessible enough, and his character was good enough to where even though potentially he didn't consider them a friend, they considered him a friend. And so us asking ourselves the question, do we have the kind of character? Do we love people well enough to where they consider us a friend? And at that point, be open to receiving feedback from us. Because the biggest part of feedback, I think, is, the two biggest parts of feedback is obviously articulating it well, not saying it in a bashing way, but saying it in a graceful way, as you said, Josue, but also asking the question, is this person in a good place to receive this feedback? Do they consider me a friend? Have I loved them well enough to where they would be able to receive this from me?